Welcome, Topaz, to the Dating Intentionally podcast. I'm so excited to have you here. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Talia. It's great to be here.
Yes. You're calling in from Uruguay.
That's right.
And okay, so I have a Hinge prompt question for you.
Okay.
Have you used Hinge? Like, were you ever on the apps?
No, I didn't use Hinge. I used OkCupid, Tinder, and Bumble.
Love it. Okay, well, you still know how prompts work. So this prompt is, I know the best spot in town for.
Okay, let's do New York because I lived in New York. So let's just assume I'm in New York. You're like, I know the best spot for cookies, chocolate chip cookies. I am a chocolate chip cookie connoisseur. That is my thing, which is very specific. Like if we're talking about peanut butter cookies, no. We're talking about oatmeal, no. I'm talking about chocolate chip cookies. That's my thing. That's my connoisseur. There's two things I'm serious about: chocolate chip cookies and charades. I'm a charade master in English.
Oh my gosh,
in English.
Amazing.
I tried it in Spanish and I failed dismally. But if you're doing it in English, I'm the Muhammad Ali of charades.
So where are we going for cookies in New York?
Okay, so the one is Lorraine Bakery. Levain Bakery is number one. There is a spot in Brooklyn in why was it? Just around the corner from on Grand and is it Lafayette or Fulton? Yeah, Green Bakery.
Okay,
Green Bakery,
I've not heard of
amazing.
Okay.
And then there's a new thing that's popped up when I was there. There's one on Kent in Williamsburg. There's a few of them popping around. What's it called? It's called they only sell chocolate chip cookies, and they're.
I don't know. I have not. I'm out of the cookie loop.
No, but Levain is number one by far, and then now Joe's Coffee in the West Village, and then he's expanded to a number of spots, all around Manhattan.
All right.
But his first one, West Village, he had some cookies coming in from I don't know where, but they were off the hook. And then last but not least, and probably my wife and son, he's 4, they made some cookies this past weekend. And I was shocked because my wife skyrocketed like number 9 on the list.
Okay. Oh, okay. Just number 9. Got it.
Yeah. She was kind of offended. I'm like, no. I got a serious list.
Yeah, that's true.
My list is serious. It's like, I'm sorry, love, but you're number 9. She's like, what? I'm like, 9 is good. 9 is amazing. I mean, come on. Especially for a first batch. Are you kidding me?
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you can get like level, 9 out of, on at home.
No, it's a ranking. It's a ranking system.
Yeah.
It's not out of 10. It's she's 9th best.
Right, but I'm saying you can get the 9th best at home without having to go to New York.
I mean, that's what I'm really excited about. Yeah.
That's great. Well, okay, we'll link all those in the show notes because anyone listening with a sweet tooth, we got you in New York.
Yeah.
Love it. Well, thank you for that. I mean, now
so
we know.
did you get that from Hinge? Did you just go through the questions on Hinge?
I literally just go through that. Yes.
Why did you choose that one?
Well, I was like, I just thought because you're in Uruguay. I'm like, maybe he'll say something with Uruguay. I don't know. I just like also just choose them like based on like kind of how comfortable will this person be answering this question, especially if I don't know them. Some people come on and I like have known them for a while, so I'll throw them more curveball or weird ones. But like sometimes
what's the best question you've seen on Hinge or any dating app? What's the best question? What's the best question you've seen on a dating app?
Like, I haven't been on for a while. I'm going to pull my phone out so I can look at them. I have it's hard to, you're asking best question in terms of like favorite question to answer or best question in terms of most effective to answer on an app for the purpose of marketing yourself.
Oh,
those are two different.
Totally great. Oh, I love this already. This is great. You're totally right. Absolutely.
Because like I answered, like right now I have a profile up just that says like I'm engaged, I'm just here for research, and right now I have answered my most controversial opinion is the one thing you should know about me is, and you should leave a comment if. So like these are pretty open-ended. I like them. You can do a lot with them, so in that way they're good Hinge prompts like for this purpose. But I don't know if the question, or I don't know if saying what's your most controversial opinion on a date or like in a regular conversation would work as well. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you get to think about it. You get to, like, when you're answering a Hinge question, you can think about it and you can like edit your answer. But in a conversation, just being like, hey, what are you weirdly attracted to? Like, obviously I'm doing that on the podcast. Like, I'm just throwing this out there, but I think it's fun. So that's why.
There's a lot of questions. Those questions we can. I'm asking because I'm a question master. That's what we're here to talk about with the
Yes.
book and everything I've been doing for time. We could talk about what makes a great question, but
well, we're going to.
Yeah. There's different uses of questions. That question is more of a exploratory one to yourself to then give people an idea of touch points, how they can engage with you. So that's interesting.
Love it. Well, okay. So you have your new book, 12 Questions for Love. I just started it on Audible and I'm working my way through it. But I want to know from you, what made you want to write a book about intimacy and having deeper conversations?
Well, it comes from the AND videos that we've been doing for 10 years now. We're actually in our 11th year.
Wow.
Have you seen any of the videos on? Okay, you have.
Yeah.
So, we've been holding the space for incredible conversations for the last 10 years, over 1,200 conversations. We're in the beginning of our 11th year. And it's been an honor to hold a space for these people of all kinds, lovers, partners, exes, siblings, grandparents, their grandkids, best friends, coworkers, to come in and have these incredible conversations. And an editor who's a fan of the Skin Deep, which is our experience design studio that created the AND, she reached out and she said, Topaz, what have you seen are the 12 best questions that really work to create a cathartic conversation? Let's put that into a book. What have you seen works? Why do you think it works? And how do we create the space? It's basically, this book is a guide to intimate conversations to deepen your relationships. And if you think about where do we learn that? Where do we actually learn how to have really good conversations that explore our relationships? How do we learn how to lean into those spaces with our intimate others?
There's no one sits you down and teaches you that. Like,
there's no class.
Step one, step two. No.
I mean, what you do is you basically model it in your family. And, if I could tell you my family, we didn't have it really well modeled. And I think very few families do. So, or maybe in your friend group, but where do we really learn the tools and the skills and how to practice having really good conversations? And there's so much in the shaping of the question that sets up the conversation already. And I think that's what I've learned in the last 10 years. So that's the offering for the book.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think you have the AND card decks and you have so many of them for different situations, but having it in book form is different. So what do you think is different about the book that you're not getting with the question, with the cards?
So the cards are, thanks for mentioning, they're amazing, right? We have 12 editions. We also have digital editions that come out that you could just play, and they're random. You're just scrolling through, or you're picking through a deck, 200 questions, and you pick and you have a conversation. Great. The book is teaching you why these questions work. The book is teaching you how to create the space to have the conversation. Okay. So that you don't necessarily need the cards, or that why the cards work. So it's pulling back the curtain, if you will, on the Wizard of Oz and saying, hey, this is why these work. And our questions are very good. Much better. Yeah, and I can tell you why. We could break down why. Well, but I want to put in people's hands the skill set of how to do it yourself and how to practice it. Because love is an emotion, yes, but it's also an act. It's also an act. And ultimately, we all want to be seen, in my opinion. The experience of living is that you want to be seen. There's an urge to be seen. And it's scary to be seen, right? And that requires some courage and vulnerability. But there's such a great payoff, and we love it when we are. It's one part that we're all yearning for in life, in my opinion. And one way to get there is to actually step into a space of a cathartic conversation. How do you do that? Right. It's in the book. That's the offering.
Love it. Well, okay. So some of the questions in the book, I chose 3 randomly, or what do you think you're learning from me? What are your 3 favorite memories that we share, and why do you love me? If there was one question,
what? No, not why do you love me?
No, that's the last one.
No. I see. And why do you love me? I thought you were
I just chose. Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I just chose 3 random ones just to show people what kinds of questions are in the book. But okay, I have a question though.
Okay.
What's one about this? Because choosing 12 is so hard. So what's one question if you had to add a 13th? Is there something you had to cut that was oh my God, I really between two questions at the end?
So in the book, here's 12 questions. In the end of the book, I replace all these questions with other options because it's about how to construct a question. It's about the sequence of the question, right? So there's 12 questions. The first three, we're building a journey. The first three are the base of your relationship. It's about the past, what brought you together, right? Why are you together? What are you creating by virtue of the synergy of your connection? So that we create a space of trust and acknowledgement of where we've been and what's brought us together. Then the next three questions start exploring the conflict. How are we handling with conflict? Right? Then we work to the peak experience, which is question 7 and 8. What's the pain in me you wish you could heal and why? What is the pain in me you wish you could heal and why? And so we don't just start with that. We build up to that. Right? We could, if you're playing the card game, you could get that question and then you would answer and that. But if we build a journey, if we build the architecture, right? If we build a strong base, what explores the past and our love and our respect for each other and what cemented our connection in the first place. And then we explore and exercise through some conflict through questions 4, 5, and 6. When we get to question 7, what's the pain in me you wish you could heal? We're that much more prepared to actually go deep. And then just to end the structure, then 9 and 10 is start to land the plane, which is acknowledging our experience together. What are we teaching each other? Why are we here together? Right? And acknowledge it, starts to heal up this process we've been through. And then the last two questions, 11, 12, are questions that acknowledge the fact that, or just the ones that are, to me, profound and fundamental to any relationship. If this was to be our last conversation, what would you never want me to forget? What is the core thing that our exchange is sharing that you never want me to forget? What's the one gift or message you will never want me to forget? Because frankly, we never know when the end is coming. So let's say it now. And the last one is, why do you love me? Right. And the sequence of questions creates the infrastructure such that we can really go deep and have an incredible conversation that we wouldn't have otherwise.
I think I read a lot of relationship books. And again, I just started your books. I didn't know that there was that order. That makes sense. But a lot of relationship books I've read, they're like, you can jump around. You can do different chapters out of order. And I really like that. This is so thoughtful to the point of everything builds up and there is a journey. And I think in dating and in relationships, we kind of miss that piece a lot. So I talk to a lot of women who are like, I just want them to tell me this, that, I want to know about this. And it's like, there's so much you have to get to first before you can get to that in a conversation or in a relationship even.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. We have a dating edition, which is great. People love it. It's just such an easy, the card games. Yeah. So a lot of people bring the card deck and say, hey, let's play this, which maybe it's a bit, okay, well, that's full on. So instead, what they tell me they do is that before they go out to their date in the car, before they leave their apartment, they'll go through or they'll pick 4 random cards, put them in their pocket, and then check them and say, okay, I'm going to ask these 3, 4 questions if I get, right?
But what would you do if you were on a date with someone and they're in their pocket? Just
checking, cheat notes?
Yeah. What would, if you couldn't see the card, what would you think they're doing?
I think they're looking at their phone. They're looking for the next date. They're already swiping left. I don't know. I think... I think the art of conversation is something that what you practice, you get good at. Mm-hmm. How much are we practicing conversation? How much are we practicing listening? Right? Really listening. And that's something that's beautiful about the And. If you go to our social media channels and you watch our conversations on, YouTube, we have about over 1,200. We're filming this for those who haven't seen. We film 2 people are facing each other. We put questions on a little coffee table between them. And they alternate questions back and forth, asking each other questions. But we film it with 3 cameras, a wide shot, so you see them both in profile facing each other, and 2 close-ups. And we are always showing you both close-ups at the same time. It's a bi-panel, 50-50 shot of both people's faces. And what we're saying there is that the listening is just as important as the talking. And where in the content that you watch, in the movies and the TVs and all the social media that you watch, where do you see, you always see the person talking. You rarely see the person also listening at the same time. Mm-hmm. So what we're in it, that content is telling you the people talking is important. And what we're saying is, no, it's actually the conversation. It's the speaking and the listening. That's important. It's the relationship. And that's a really valuable tool. And that helps us to understand that conversations, that gives us a better idea of what it could be to practice a conversation. It's not just speaking, it's actually listening. Right?
Yes. I mean, it's so easy to forget that, especially in dating when you're like, I'm on a date. I have to show them how great I am. I have to tell them all the things, cool things I do. And I have to like tell them the thing that that's most important to me. And it's like, what I find with listening on dates, it's a challenge is that people are projecting what they are hoping for on another person. So they're not, it's like, that's adding another barrier to truly listening to what they're saying. It's like, they're listening, but with a lens of judgment before even letting that person just show up as who they are.
Totally.
And I'm really out here trying to help people like not do that. So obviously your book focuses a lot on like existing relationships, like long-term partnerships. Like I don't have conflict with someone I've been on 3 dates on yet, really,
Right.
So what are some tips for applying some of these principles to these early dating stages when you are just learning about someone?
What I've learned from this, for doing this for so long and witnessing those conversations, that there's really 2 things. One is creating the space, and we talk about what that means. 2 is well-constructed questions. All right, let's go to what does this guy mean by creating the space? Intention is what I mean. Okay. And that's different than an agenda. Intention is where you begin. What's your intention from stepping into this space of having this conversation? Agenda is where do you want this conversation to end up? Right? And you can always feel when somebody has an agenda.
That is so true. Oh, right? Wait, just pause it for a second. Yeah. That's like a huge click moment. Like that is so, so, so true. Please, listeners, like just want to say that again. Say it again. Intention is
where you begin. Okay. Where you're coming into
agenda is
where you want to end up.
Right. And we don't want that.
No, I mean, look, I'll tell you why. When someone comes at you with an agenda, you feel it, you know it. And who is speaking to that person? It's not your heart. The heart's built to connect. That's what you want to talk to. But the mind is built to protect. And when the mind feels that here we got an agenda, they have an intention of where they want me to get to. Hold on, let me protect. Let me make sure that. So how many times are you in a conversation where you feel the agenda and you're not you are playing mental chess, right? So then the question is, how do you create the space for our hearts to connect?
Okay.
And the way we do that is we create a space that has intention. Hey, that's why the game is great, right? Card game, this box, 200 questions. Mm-hmm. Okay. Hey, let's play a game. Okay.
Right.
Let's choose a random question. Why do you love me? Why are you in this relationship? What do you want to get for this that I don't understand or that I might miss? What do you want from this relationship that I may not? Okay. Mm-hmm. If you ask this question out of the blue.
On a date.
The difference in a date, though, is you're on a date and we know we're going to get to know each other. So there's a little bit more space to ask questions versus when you're in a relationship, you come home and you just say, hey, what are the person's washing dishes like? Why are you asking me this? So in a date, there's a little more space, but then again, it could come off as setting the wrong impression. Ooh, this person's really aggressive. Ooh, this person likes to get really emotional. Like, what's this about? Or they're really prying where are they going? So by bringing the card, hey, let's play a game on the date. Hey, you know what? Let's play a game where I'm going to ask you a question. You ask me a question, right? Let's go on a road trip and let's not listen to a podcast and let's not listen to radio. Let's just talk, right? So now we create the space. Now, none of what I just said tells you where we want to end up. I'm not saying let's talk so that we end up and you tell me why you love me and you admit your love for me. What we're doing is we're just creating the beginning, but we don't know where we're going to end. Mm-hmm. And that's an invitation for the heart to step forward. That's number one, create this space. Then the second thing is we got to have well-constructed questions. And we could talk about that in a sec. Yeah. But that's number one.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is to come into a date with an open mind, open heart, right? Mind and heart got to be open, no agenda, no like, oh, I need to end this date knowing XYZ about this person and letting the conversation kind of take its path. And I can hear people being like, well, what if I always get stuck? Or what about if there's an awkward silence? Or like, what if we run out of things to talk about? That happens on dates. And what do you think about that? What's the go-to for if there's like this weird moment where like there's something in the air and we can't find the next topic?
Here's what comes up for me in dates, and it's really helpful. When I was living in New York, I met on many dates and a lot of dating. I was a hopeless romantic, always looking for love and connection, And what I can tell you is that if you look at it as a practice of your own emotional engagement, It's like, have you ever done salsa? I don't know if you ever done salsa. You go to
Mhm.
salsa class. You're in a salsa class, and you're practicing, and then the teacher lines everyone up, and then you'll dance with one person for one song, and then you'll rotate to another person, and you'll dance with them, and then you'll dance, then you'll rotate. So every song you dance with different partners. And what you realize, it's amazing that some partners you're dancing and you're like, wow, I'm a great salsa dancer. And then others, you're like, I'm a horrible salsa dancer. There is the chemistry,
Mm.
right? There.
Mhm.
How am I showing up? So when you show up to a date, how are you showing up to the date? It doesn't have to be so far with an agenda of the future. Is this the person of my dreams? Is this going to be the next? What if it's, how am I showing up in this? How am I showing up present with this other person? And how am I practicing being present?
Mm.
How am I practicing being in a relationship?
So that's doing your 50% or your 100% of your 50% is like being present. Yeah.
I almost see it dating from the beginning and to the relationship is frankly until you find that partner that you're really committing to, and then you enter another phase of a journey. Is we're a bunch of kids on the playground at recess. There's 400 kids on the playground, and all the kids are doing different things. Some, so how are you playing on the playground, and by what rules are you playing, and by what behavior? And do you share your ball? Do you not share your ball? Do you throw the ball at the other person? Does it get thrown at you? How are you playing the game? And just play your game. And some people will come and they don't play the game like I don't play the same values. I don't play the same game. They don't like to share. I like to share. I'm playing football. They're playing baseball. It's a different game. Different. So you play your game. You get really good at playing your game. The people who play your game will show up and want to play with you.
Got it. So I love this because it's like it takes the pressure off, right? You can show up and be yourself, be present. And if you have a lull, if you have some kind of like mismatch in the conversation, it's not necessarily because you are doing something wrong, just not playing your game. Like, and that's okay. And it doesn't mean that you need to change anything or you need to adapt to their game so that you can play better with them. It's like, no, you're just
practice
doing
your game.
Yeah. Right.
You're practicing your game in relation to other people. And here's the thing. Why is there a lot of pressure on the date? I'll tell you why. Because it's the question you're asking yourself going into the date.
Okay. What's the question?
No, you tell me. When you went into your dates.
Okay.
When your clients, when your people.
Well, when I was dating, I mean, my question was just like, I honestly was just more like, what's going to happen on this date? That was really my question.
That's a great question, right?
How's this going to go? Yeah.
How's this going to do? But what if we say, how's this going to go? What if we change like, how can I enjoy the learning I'm going to have from this experience, regardless of how?
I knew for me, I was going to enjoy it, right? I knew I was always like that's just my state of being. Like,
great, but that's because you're asking a question. Like we're always, what I want to share with the listener right now is that the question is by far more powerful than the answer. We are always asking ourselves questions. You wake up in the morning and you go, fucking, I got to do that. Jeez Louise, I got to do that. What you don't realize is that before you get that reaction, you ask yourself a question. What do I have to do today? Mm-hmm. What thing do I have to overcome today? And you get the answer. If before answering that, you said, ooh, okay, I have amongst everything I have to do today, what's the one thing I'm going to love and enjoy? And you go, oh, I got that 5 minutes to play with my dog. Okay. My point is, we are always answering questions, and you can shape the answer by being cognizant of the question you're answering. So when you're going to that date, if you're wondering, ooh, I wonder what kind of impression I'm going to make on them. Obviously, that's a lot of pressure on you. Ooh, I wonder if this is going to be the person of my dreams and how does this line up with my dream story? Ooh, that's a lot of pressure.
So much pressure.
Change the question.
Yeah.
Change the question.
I love
that's
that.
the thing. So when you're going in, your mind is talking to you. And stop and go, wait, what question is this mind answering? Let me change the question, and your mind will answer a different question. And that's how you can take out the pressure. And so when
I love this.
Yeah.
We were talking earlier about the game, like, okay, you want to find someone who's like, can play your game with you. Something that comes up a lot, and I want to hear what you think is going on here, is that someone will come into leave a date being like, oh my God, that was the best conversation. We really connected. This is so great. And then the other person doesn't feel that way at all. What is happening there?
I have no idea. That's great.
Yeah, you have no idea. I mean,
I find it interesting. I find it interesting that one person can feel really connected and the other person totally not. And I do not know why that is. I know it does happen.
Yeah, that's fine if you don't know. Yeah, I think it's just like really interesting because someone could be like, I really enjoyed this conversation. And the other person could just be like, I don't want to see you again. I mean,
well, but that's because there's something about a conversation. There's something about, there's many forms of connection and things. And we don't always know why the other person is looking for, what stage of where they're looking at. And I find that, so in that stage, you wonder, oh, why didn't they feel as connected as I did? And then your mind will try to race into reasons why. Instead, you can ask yourself, what am I going to learn from this experience? And how's it going to make me better and more prepared for the next thing?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, in my experience and what I've learned is like, if you just because you have a great date or like, you're like, oh my God, the date was so great. And then they didn't want to have another one. Like a great date actually doesn't mean what you think it means. Sometimes you have a great date because you are fun. Like sometimes you have a great date because the activity was fun and you were bringing all the funny stories and jokes and all the good stuff, but they weren't actually doing anything. And I think you have to, sometimes some people have to realize that. I don't know.
Man, it is such an interesting dance, right? It's such an interesting dance. And I think being cognizant that it is a dance and I'm practicing dancing and that's what we're doing. And what kind of relationship do I want to end up being in? You don't necessarily have control over, right? The universe will bring it to you in some degree. Are you playing the game to put yourself in the position for that to happen? That's kind of how I saw it myself.
And, well, yes. And that's back to intentionality. Like, what's your intention?
Yeah. How are you showing up on these things? And how do you treat yourself because there's your relationship with the other person, but also your relationship with yourself. When they're talking and you're listening to them, but you're also listening to your body. What comes up for you? Are you what called in the book deep listening is feeling to listen. What comes up in your body as you hear them talking? And maybe responding from that space. Because oftentimes what I've seen on the end is that, and I've realized by watching all these conversations, that a lot of us respond with societal programming.
Okay.
I call them cultural mantras. I'm going to give
What's
you
an example of that?
I'm going to give you two examples. First example, when I realized this, was we had blind dates on the end, which were awesome. We bring people who we thought could be a good match from the questionnaire that they filled out. We put them together. They're blindfolded. They take off the blindfold. You see their first impression, and then we ask them questions. And they're awesome. Awesome series. I always had one question in there question was, why do you think I'm single? And the answer 95% of the time, are you ready for this?
I'm ready.
I'm talking about, we did a lot of different people, different backgrounds. I mean, we even had one woman flying from San Francisco to New York to do it. I mean, people came in from, another one came from Vancouver. It was a great blind date. She came from Vancouver. She's a fan. Or was it? No, Toronto. She came from Toronto. So, okay. So we had all these different people, different backgrounds, and 95%, they all just said the same thing to that question. Why do you think I'm still single? Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Well, because you need enough time. You don't need to figure yourself out first. You're figuring yourself out first before you get in a relationship.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I thought, ooh, that's interesting. Like, is that really true? Or is that what society's telling us?
Yeah, I don't think that's true.
but that is a repetitive question, that ubiquitous question that we pretty much saw all the time. And that made me think that's something that society is telling us. It's like, you are trying to figure yourself out before you can really get into a relationship. How true is that? Is that a cultural mantra? I saw another cultural mantra that was very direct to me when I was on Bumble. And this is the last time I was on Bumble. I've been married 6 years, so I'm dated. I'm sure things have changed dramatically. Way back in the day, say 6-7 years ago, I'm on Bumble. And I really like Bumble. I loved it. I love the fact that the woman could respond and choose. It kind of gave the impetus there for them to take action. It gave me a little bit more sense of freedom. I could be a bit more, okay. And of course, my married friend, he wanted to live vicariously through me. So like, let me see whose options, what's out there. And he started flicking through Bumble. And he goes, at some point he said, wait, are these all the same woman? I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, are these all the same woman? And I took it back and I realized that at this point, Bumble had figured out my profile. and
Like
what
what-
I was attracted to. And so it was feeding me kind of
Just
women
more
with a
the same.
similar look, if you will.
Yeah.
And I realized, wait, all these women have the same kind of look, and they're buying into the same look. And is that really them? And then I said, oh, wait a second. Am I even really attracted to that? Because I'm also buying into the concept of the look that I believe I'm attracted to. And so this algorithm, which is basically treating us all as products that we're selling to each other, we're selling ourselves as products, we're buying into a concept of what we think we're attracted to, instead of actually being present to what the universe offers and discovering ourselves anew beyond the societal programming, so that we could be more fulfilling in our own living, in our own experience of being alive.
Right.
And that's when I turned off Bumble.
Yeah. You're like, nope, I'm out.
That's
like dating app inception.
I mean,
like all the layers.
It's
happening.
It's that, and then it's also for me, and I'm not against dating apps, by the way, but there was also a point for me where I was on dates, and in the back of the mind, I was thinking about all the other dates that I was chatting, or I had options to. I could go home and scroll or meet with. And so I wasn't fully present in the date because of all the other opportunities, the possible opportunities that existed. Right?
Yeah.
And
there's fireworks going up.
I know. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like on your computer. Right now we're doing a podcast and we shut everything else off so that we could be really present. There's enough memory going back, but we are fully present. We turn off the disturb mode. We are present with each other. But if we had 10 other apps on our computer going on right now,
I mean, no,
like binging and music,
barely be talking to each other.
We're not really present. So how present are you in the game, in the dance of dating? And that's the practice.
Right. I mean, yeah, that's something in our control too. Like a lot of times we fall into this trap. Maybe it is one of those societal scripts that you're saying, like to blame the dating pool, to blame the dating apps, to blame, other just external things constantly. But you can't control these things. You can control how present you are, for sure.
Totally. And how you use the tool. How to use the tool. And I mean, part of the societal program, like even on a date, there's societal scripts that we have. What do you do? Where are you from? What's important to you?
Well, I want to be able to talk about how we can ask better questions on dates, because you talk a lot about constructing better questions. In a dating context, what would you say makes a good question?
All right. I'm going to give you 2 of the 5 things that are really good. Well, first of all, I'll give you 3. 1, don't ask a binary question.
Yes or no, this or that.
Yeah. If the question starts with do, is, or are, do you like sailing? Is love important to you? Are we a good match? Is, do, and are, you start with those words, you are setting up a yes, no answer, an either or answer. And how interesting is that? Sometimes it's necessary. Should we go on another date? Do you want to go on another date? Sometimes you just want to know, wait, be more efficient, fair enough. But if you're exploring each other, start questions with what, how, why, in what way, Other question, you want to start with those because those invite a nuanced answer, one that you cannot respond with a yes, no binary response. That's 1. 2.
Okay.
That's 1. 2. Ask a question that acknowledges the connection. This really helps. A lot of questions are, so the famous one is 36 questions for love. New York Times.
Yeah, we did those. Yep.
Okay. I think maybe in there, I think there's about 5 or 6 that are actually acknowledging the relationship. The rest, you would answer the same regardless of who answered it. One of them might be, what do you think about love? I don't know if that is, but let's just say, what do you think about love? If I said, Talia, what do you think about love? And your fiance said, what do you think about love? And the stranger you just saw on the corner that you're walking by said, what do you think about love? You will answer the same thing. What do I think about love? I think about this. But if we change the question to acknowledge our relationship and say, how do you think we think about love similarly? How do you think we think about love? Or how do you think we think about love differently? See, that you will answer that differently when I ask it.
Yeah, you're putting us in the same room in the question. Like
the question acknowledges the 2 people having the conversation.
Right.
Right? It acknowledges this is important. People miss this all the time.
Yeah.
Right? So ask a question. So instead of saying, what's a cliched dating question?
Do you have any siblings?
Do you have any siblings? How do you think we treat our siblings differently?
Love it.
Right? And instantly they have to kind of be in your shoes. They have to project what they might. And now there's a whole other space of, right?
Yes.
What do you think
That's
about your,
opening up a totally different door.
what does friendship mean to you? Okay. How about this? How do you think our views on friendship differ and are similar?
Wow, the phrase in the question really does change it, even though you kind of will talk about the same things, like how do you view friendship versus how do you think we view friendship differently?
No.
You don't
It's
think so?
it won't be the same conversation. It'll
No?
be different because if I ask you, how do you think we view friendship differently? Now
I
you're
have to
starting
say
to put
how I think you view friendship. Right. So I
exactly.
have to
And now
like
you're putting yourself
consider
in my
you more.
shoes, and now the conversation is elevated because I'm like, ooh, I wonder what she thinks about me.
Yeah, you're way more engaged. 'Cause
I'm
we all wanna
way
know.
more engaged.
Yeah.
Exactly. Now, if you go off for half an hour on a beautiful poem, which often happens when you have a two date, you'll find that the masculine energy just talks forever and doesn't listen, in my opinion, because it has to perform for the feminine. The feminine, generally, this might have changed now, but 7 years ago, I just would see dates. I'd be on dates and I'd find that the masculine energy was always talking, performed it for the feminine, which was kind of trained to be submissive and listen. And obviously that's shifting, that's changed, thank God. But I find the most powerful thing masculine energy can do is actually create the space for the feminine to step out and explore and be present and hold it down for her or her.
Right.
Not to be confused with gender, for the other energy, feminine energy.
The other, yes, for sure.
I find that to be, and so I say connective question. Just tweak it to make it about us.
I love that. Okay, what's the third thing?
The third thing would be, this is a twist. Now, you don't have to do all three of these things. In the book, there's 5. But some of them are good. It helps the question. Just put 2 things together that don't normally come together. What's your favorite memory from your worst relationship?
Okay, got it.
How much does earning money cost you? What's your favorite?
There's like a tension in that question.
There's a twist that you don't normally ask. What's your favorite lie you love telling yourself? What's the truth?
Gotta be honest about that. Yeah.
What's the truth you hate telling yourself?
Okay, so those are like spicy questions.
They're spicy questions. What I'm saying is they're putting 2 things together. How much does money cost you? How much does earning money cost you? What does it cost you? Less time with my family. I don't have time to exercise. I'm stressed. What is it? I'm not present. What does earning money? Why? Another flip version of that is putting each other in each other's shoes.
Right.
What do you think is the hardest thing being my friend? And by the way, okay, so that's the third thing, is putting each other in each other's shoes and making things that are not, you don't normally connect. And then I just want to give a little clue for when you're on a date, and it really helps. If I ask you, we'll just take the last question. What do you think is the hardest thing being my friend? Right? I put the words, do you think, or what do you feel? Now, if I just change that question to, what is the hardest thing being my friend? Then you're gonna answer that as the arbiter of the objective truth. And now I'm in a defensive mode. But if I just say, do you think or do you feel? You're just giving your opinion. And there's less of a place to fight, to have confrontation.
So subtle, but so
subtle.
Yeah.
So subtle. So on a date, throw in, do you think, do you feel? It just makes it that much easier to, less of a combat and less of a stakes.
Right. Yeah, right. It lowers the stakes a lot, takes the pressure off, and makes it more fun. It's like, it's just a little lighter. So, okay, this has been so great. But one thing we haven't talked about yet, and that is a big part of dating, is texting and conversations and connecting over text, because this is a really, what I would say, a big barrier to successful dating is texting too much before you know someone. So what do you think about having these like deep conversations in text?
I'm shaking because I'm not. Let me tell you I don't think I'm the one to answer this question. I'll tell you why.
All right.
I remember when my brother, we're both dating. He's 16 years younger than I. I was 36, 37. He was 21, 22. He read my text. He was like, woo, this is a little straight on. This is a little bit, but because he was great at code switching. Younger generations can read the text. They can read the emojis. They can get the sentiment. I'm old. I remember being uncomfortable. Why am I texting and not calling? And the other person's like, well, why are you calling? I remember being in a relationship, and this is what really kind of jumped me into building the experiences I see of the Skin Deep, exploring the question of the emotional experience of living, of being human. How's it changing with technology? Because I was in Idaho. I was working on a script. I was kind of in a hut, writing, and I had been dating a woman I met on OkCupid for about 6 weeks. And we were texting, and at some point I said, love. Thank you, love. Love. And she wrote back, hey, Topaz, look, when you write love, do you really mean love, or do you mean love like the English use it as vernacular? Hey, love. Yeah. I said, ooh. So first thing I did was I just called her, and we had an hour conversation about our relationship, where were we at, what were we feeling. And at the end, she said, thank you so much for doing this, because the last few relationships I've been in, all this kind of intimate conversation was done over text.
Yes.
And what shocked me, me the most was not that. What shocked me was that we were only 5 years apart. I was 37, she was 32. And even though there was only a 5-year age gap, I felt generationally it was so different. Yeah. And that's why I'm shaking my head, because I don't think I'm in the age group where I can't code switch. I think the younger generations really understand text messages in a way that I don't, really understand visual images on social media in a way that I don't.
Well, I guess I'm asking you because you are, such a master of questions and connection. So I guess I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are like, can you create these very authentic, close, intimate connections via text in that in that medium? You think so?
I think so. Yeah. I think they're different. I think they're just different. I wouldn't call it, we all use the term love and connection. I think they're all different. When grandma used to bleed ink into the piece of paper and lick the envelope and put it in a mailbox and wait for 3 weeks, a month, 2 months for a response, and have that sentiment for so long, is that the same kind of love now that we do from a text message or a voice note that's direct, that gets responded to in a few seconds? This gets hit with a like or an emoji. We still call it love. We still call it connection, but it's different. I just think we should acknowledge the differences, and we should ask ourselves, what emotional experiences do I want to have?
But when it comes to deep listening, like, because you talk about deep listening a lot, you talk about, we talked about just like not having distractions. It's like, can you really have these real authentic connections if like you're not making eye contact or you're not seeing their body language? Because I think what's happening, like the trend right now in dating, is you're losing tone, body language, eye contact, and just general physical like proximity or not in these conversations. So you're losing all this information, and then you have more room to fantasize or build in your mind. And that's where I think people are like screwing themselves over a little bit in the early dating process.
Absolutely. But that leads to the question is, are they going to keep their relationship in text? What's going to happen when they change that relationship? They're getting something from that relationship. I don't want to deny the emotional hit that they're getting from that. Agree. The intimacy. And some people, it's really helpful for them to have that space to be able to write their feelings into words and check it and give time. And they might be more expressive because there's that time gap and there's that lack of physical presence, and that gives them more ability to be emotionally present and deeper. So I'm not denying that. I'm just saying, what is it that you want? And what is it that you want to practice? And are you practicing the things that put you in a place to get what you want? If you want the physical connection and the presence, are you practicing being physically present with the people? Are you practicing looking them in the eye? Are you practicing leading to vulnerability in the presence? If
I'm
you want
so
something,
glad you're saying this.
It's what are you practicing to get what you want? And sometimes there's an incongruency between what you want and what you're practicing. Right?
Yes. Right.
And I think I have, at some point before this call, for your listeners, I should tell you why I think the secret is to finding your partner.
Okay.
And it's worked for me 3 times.
Hit us.
Huh?
Hit us. Yeah.
Wait, what'd you say?
I said, hit me. Yeah.
Like, well, okay. I'm going to say the first thing, and then everyone's going to go, oh yeah, big deal. What's the, no. Here we go. Write a list. Okay. Yeah. Big deal. I've heard the list. It's not about writing the list. It's about the state you're in, the emotional state you're in when you write the list.
The list of what you want in a partner?
It's not just what you want.
Okay. What is
so? It's the emotional state. You have to write. Okay, so this is really important because, in my opinion, this is really important. You hear this a lot, right? Write a list, and everyone writes a list. And what they're writing the list is what they want, which is already what they don't have, what they desire because they have the lack of. So the emotional state you're in when you're writing that is one from not having. Here's a very simple example. Talia, I want you to describe what you see behind me.
Right now?
Yeah.
Okay. I see a gorgeous little nook with two windows, some plants, some really cute, like a love seat. Yeah, all that stuff.
And then feel how you feel. Feel yourself in describing how confident, how assured, how clear are you in what you're seeing?
Yeah.
Very.
Feeling very confident. Yeah.
Great. Tell me what's behind the camera, my camera.
Like what you're seeing?
Tell me what I'm seeing when I look that way out my window. What do I see?
I mean, hopefully like some forest. I have no idea.
Okay. So how do you feel emotionally when you're trying to describe what you think I feel?
Like I'm on the spot.
No, you feel, but emotionally you don't feel secure. No. You don't feel clear. When we're writing our list, we are in the emotional state of unclear, unassured, we're not clear. And we write the lists. The universe is not going to bring you that list because you're not. You got to write for an emotional state of being as clear and confident and assured as when you're describing what you see. So when you write that list, you're writing kind of from your third eye. You're writing what you see, not what you want. And when you write that list, you write three things. There's three columns. One is, what do you see? And you're writing it from, I know, like I can describe this all day. I mean, you could just, if I could leave you here for 1 hour, you could go into every little detail of what you see behind me in my office. Right? And you're confident, and you know, When you write the list, what do you see? And you're not writing from what you want, you write from what you see. So there's a moment of vortex open, a moment of clarity. You do a breathing exercise, you do a meditation, and you're in a space where you're like, I know this is true. I see it. I'm going to write down. Okay. Write down what you see. Write down what you do not see.
Okay.
What is not present. And the last one you write is, how do you feel in that space?
Okay. That's very simple. Love it. Very effective. I can see how that works. I mean, I did a version of this. It definitely worked for me. I think one of the many things that worked, but yeah.
Did it? That's been my experience. I just feel like
I did a different version, but similar mindset of just like believing that what I wrote on my list was out there, just and
knowing it,
100% certain on that. Like knowing there was not a shred of doubt. Yeah.
The emotional space you're in when that happens. So when you feel that vortex, that moment of clarity open, boom, grab a piece of paper and write it out. Do not take that vortex. Do not take that clarity of a moment of clarity. Do not take that sense of knowing for granted. It is an opportunity. And really be as detailed as possible when that opens up. And then leave it aside, relax the nervous system, and allow the universe to bring it your way.
Beautiful. Well, Topaz, this has been amazing. We're pretty much out of time. I have one more question for you. Like, thank you so much for all your wisdom. What do you want to see more of in dating and just when we're out there making connections with new people? What do you want to see more people doing?
I would really like to see being people more present to each other. Because I feel when you're really present, you're more humble. And when you're more humble, you're more empathetic. I think this world needs some more empathy.
Yes. And that's honestly, I've had a lot of people on the show. It's a very common answer. It's a very common theme, like more empathy, more being present. Beautiful. Thank you so much for everything. Where can we connect with you? Where can we get more Topaz?
So the skindeep.com, where you can get all our products. You can also get everything on Amazon. The book's on Amazon and everywhere. The skindeep.com, you can find us on all our socials as well. My personal website is topazadizes.com. But the Skin Deep is where it's at. That's where we're putting all our effort and all our communication.
Love it. Well, we'll find you there. We'll get more questions and ways to connect. So thanks again. Love this conversation.
Thank you so much, Talia.